Hey everyone, happy Friday. It is day 4 of Give My Heart, and just giving you a quick thought today. Today's topic is a God hug. I know that's maybe a little bit different, a different visual for you, but it comes out of Psalm 125, 1 and 2. I'll read it to you. Those who trust in the Lord are as Mount Zion, which cannot be moved but abides forever. As the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people from this time forth and forevermore. When I read that, I just think of the near presence of God, that with me-ness, that he's right here in my physical presence. I had a conversation this morning with a friend, and we've just been talking a lot about so many people we know are struggling with grief. They're really in a season of grief. And I would say it's obvious that collectively, nationally, internationally, we are in grief together. Because anytime there's a loss of anything, it's the death of a person, it's the loss of a habit, a schedule, a routine, it's actually grief. And what this is doing is awakening personal grief. Some of this grief that has been ignored maybe, or forgotten, or grief that we carry that we didn't even know we need to confront. So because of that, I was thinking a lot about just the hug of God and the need for embrace, human touch, but that God can provide that through people, through loved ones, through situations and circumstances as well. A couple years ago, I was sitting in a coffee shop and I'd had a really, really rough day. There was like 3 major things that happened that just kind of like turned me sideways. And I went in and I just had uttered like a whisper prayer to God. I just need a hug. I could just use a hug. And I went in, I sat down, and I was doing my work. And shortly after, this guy walked in the coffee shop, and I could tell he was kind of making his way around the coffee shop. And I thought, oh gosh, he's going to come to me. I'm not in the mood for this. And he walked up to my table and he said, would you do me a favor? And I was like, oh, great. And he said, could you let me hug you? And I stood up, and this guy gave me a huge hug. He was a young man with some mental challenges, and he gave me this huge hug, and he was like, thank you, that's it. And he just walked out. And there I sat in a puddle of tears, like, God, you heard my whisper prayer and you answered it through this young man who just came in and asked if he could hug me. I think of another time I was at a retreat a couple years ago, and I just was like, God, I just need your touch. And this guy in the middle of the retreat walked across the room and he put his hand on my back and he prayed over me. And afterwards he just said, the Father told me to come and lay my hands on you, that he wanted you to know that his touch is real. Several years prior to that, I was living and working in England. I was at a huge conference with thousands of people, and we were in a prayer time. And in the middle of this crowd of people, I was up kind of towards the front in an aisle somewhere. I was like, Jesus, what would it be like to hold your hand? What would that feel like? And so there I was in worship. And next thing I know, someone is grabbing my hand. And then they prayed over, and it was a male's voice. He prayed over me. And then after the prayer, he said, Jesus told me to come and find you and to hold your hand. He wanted you to know he's holding your hand. This guy that had come to find me was the leader of the entire conference, like thousands of people. He'd been on the stage in a corner somewhere, worked his way through the audience until the Lord highlighted that it was me. I was so encouraged by that. I'm encouraged by the power and the presence and the touch of our Father, that he draws near to us. In this scripture of him surrounding us is just a beautiful reminder of that. So if you're in a season of grief or things are hard and you just need the touch of the Father, his presence is with you. Ask him to show himself to you. And I would encourage you to think about a time when you have felt surrounded by the Father. It could be physical, it could be literal, it could be in a vision, it could be whatever, through scripture, through an old hymn, through a feeling you have when you hear a song, through a family member, through the light in their eyes, through their presence, whatever it is. I just encourage you Think about a time where you felt surrounded by the presence of God, and then soak in that and remember that that is what this season is all about. Emmanuel, God with us in the flesh. Thanks. Have a great day.